When you have a busy day ahead, try Batiste Dry Shampoo. It helps to support healthy hair by giving you the power to wash your hair less, reducing damage caused by washing and saving you time to do whatever you need to do. Plus, Batiste offers a wide range of products with amazing, long-lasting fragrances to match any mood. Check out the new Batiste Texturizing Dry Shampoo, which adds grip and texture by removing excess oil. Refresh with the best. Buy Batiste Dry Shampoo in store or online at your nearest retailer.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by my co-host, Brie Tucker.
Why, hello, everybody. How are you? I tried to do it slowly and articulate better because the AI really doesn't like my intro.
Oh, to do transcripts?
Yeah, the transcripts, the stuff it comes up with is wild.
Oh my gosh, should we talk about how the captions on Instagram, the AI there does not like it?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Let's dive into that, shall we? It's the end of May when you're hearing this, but if you follow No Guilt Mom Instagram, and if you're not, you're missing out on a good party.
Okay. So first of all, if you have kids listening, if you could just put your headphones in really, really quickly or pause it right here and listen to this section after.
Unless you're teaching them body parts, then, it might
Unless you're teaching them body parts. It might make for an uncomfortable situation. We'll just say that. And all the kids are like, oh my gosh, now I need to listen to this episode after.
I know, right?
So, we had just finished our No Guilt Mom VIP retreat, which was fabulous.
Yes.
8 women came to Phoenix, flew in, got professional headshots, got a lot of coaching, left with such big plans. And we documented the whole thing on my Instagram stories at No Guilt Mom on Instagram over the weekend. Christina did it actually on our team. It was phenomenal.
Yay, Christina!
And if you want to go look at them, they're actually a highlight. So you can find this particular thing on Instagram.
Because you wanted to make sure it was there forever. I get it.
Forever. Because at the end of the day, we were all sitting on the bed in our hotel room, me and Christina and Brie. And we were just going like, hey, it was fantastic and wonderful. Thank you to Christina for taking over the Instagram stories. And then I was like, thank you for Brie for being the best Brie. And you could see Brie make this face in the background. I'm like, and I keep talking.
What's a Brie?
What's up, Brie?
For being cheesy?
Well, that's how I thought it came across. So I ended that story. And then I came back on. I'm like, I really think I have to explain myself when I said being the best Brie. And Brie's like, no, you don't. And I'm like, yeah, I do, because Brie does so much and she's so wonderful. I can't just say she did one thing spectacularly. And Brie said, oh yeah, well, I'm like the jelly to your peanut butter. But Brie was, end of story.
Well, I was going to say, but Brie was tired. And Brie does not articulate well when she's tired.
So on all the Instagram stories, I put on the automatic captions,
which I love as somebody with a disability background. I love that.
And there's captions. So sometimes I review the captions, but on this caption, I saw something that I'm like, wait, well, what's on there? And AI had transcribed Brie saying, I'm the jelly to your penis.
Yes. And you know what's even worse? My husband listened to it later and he's like, that AI wasn't that off. It did not sound like you said peanut butter. And I was like, I was tired. Leave me alone.
I was just like, oh my gosh, thank goodness I checked captions before posting that.
Yeah, I appreciate that too. I do.
Because I changed it so you don't see that on it, but I do have a screenshot if anyone is interested.
Are you offering to send that out to people?
Oh my gosh, because I sent it to your husband and I'm like, look at this. And he's like,
leave a review for the No Guilt Mom podcast and Joanne, and then email us. Joanne will send you the screenshot. Oh my God.
It was so funny.
Yeah. And I was trying to be cool and coming up with something amazing. And I don't even know why I said it that way, because the saying isn't jelly and peanut butter. It's peanut butter and jelly. So why I even did it that way, I don't know. It was meant to be. My brain was like, I'm going to sneak this in and it's going to be hilarious.
We have these I have this quote list from our weekend, and that definitely made it on the quote list.
Oh my gosh.
I am the jelly to your penis. Yes. Well, we talk a little bit about AI in this interview.
Yeah.
there's my segue.
There you go.
If you're finding that you're a little bit, you feel like your phone is controlling you, you're going to love this. Catherine Price is the author of The Power of Fun, which we've talked about before on the podcast, and How to Break Up with Your Phone, which we've talked about in our Balanced VIP group. And we're doing a whole challenge around it actually this month of May. And she's the founder of Screen Life Balance. She helps people scroll less, live more, and have fun. And she's completely delightful. I feel like we have a connection and you're going to be seeing a lot more of Catherine Price. So on with the show.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom Podcast.
So, Catherine, we are super excited to have you with us today. And thank you for joining us. You've said it's a morning, like we were talking about it beforehand. It is a morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah. I was identifying with you saying it's a morning too, because you're like, my hair's wet. I just came out of the shower. My hair's up in a headband because my toilet's backed up last night and I was afraid to take a shower.
Amazing.
Because everything would flow back through the drain. So
Because there's nothing better.
morning.
Well, there's nothing better than getting out of the shower and seeing your toilet overflowing in the bathroom because you took a shower. Like I could understand that.
Yeah. No, it's really bad. We're just getting through. We're getting through. I'm such a big fan of yours. I told you right before we got on, I love your books, both How to Break Up with Your Phone and The Power of Fun. You personally have encouraged me to have more fun in my life and to seek out more of that joy, as well as our Balanced VIP members, because we did a book club reading of The Power of Fun and they're all seeking out their fun too.
Amazing.
Yeah. And
so cool.
It's so cool. And I'm just fascinated with you. So you started out as a science medical journalist.
Yeah. What did I do? I actually started out as like a tutor and an ice skating teacher because I was trying to write a book of fiction, which was so bad, first of all. And second was definitely just a thinly veiled account of my own life. It's embarrassing. I hope I never...
You wrote a book of fiction? That's so cool.
I don't think I ever finished it, but I was tutoring and teaching ice skating to support myself while I tried to write this book. And then at some point I was like, this is terrible. And, and I went to journalism school. So yes, but I have a background as kind of like a medical and health, I guess I'm like wellness reporter or journalist, but think of myself more as a writer. And then I wrote a whole book about the history of vitamins and supplements, and then had my daughter and ended up writing How to Break Up with Your Phone. So it's kind of been an interesting trajectory to just follow my curiosity and see where that leads in terms of writing projects.
Yeah. And in your book, How to Break Up with Your Phone, you mentioned that when you noticed that your own attention was starting to wane.
Yes.
Is that what led you into writing about breaking up with your phone and these digital device effects they have on us?
Yeah, I think it was a variety of things. This was like 2016. So yes, I started to notice my attention span was really not doing very well. I also had done a lot of stuff with mindfulness and mindfulness-based stress reduction, both in terms of writing about it and then also taking, the 8-week course in mindfulness-based stress reduction. So I was really doing a lot of kind of like noticing myself in the moment and what I was doing and how I was feeling. But I do distinctly remember writing in my journal one day and trying to continue a thought. And if you read that entry, it looks like I've got some kind of attention problem because I start talking about like buying sports bras in the middle of it. Like I just like leave writing and I'd go on Amazon and spend 30 minutes researching and buying sports bras. And then I came back and kept writing. So definitely that was happening. And then the other thing is that, I'd had my daughter in 2015 and I just started to notice these times when I'd be up with her and feeding her or whatever, and she'd be looking at me and I'd be looking down at my phone. And I think that's where the mindfulness kicked in, where it was like, oh, I saw the scene as if I were an outsider looking at myself and basically saw this little baby gazing up at her mother and her mother looking down at her phone. And that was horrifying and really a wake up call for me because I'm like, I don't want to be living that way. And I certainly don't want that to be the impression my daughter has of a relationship, like let alone with her own mother. So kind of a confluence of all those things made me think, wait a second, like what's going on here? This device is doing something to me, and I'm not the only person whom this is having an effect on. But at that point in 2016, there weren't too many people talking about it, in the way they are now.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find a solution. And so that's when I was like, I want to come up with a solution. I don't want to just get freaked out. There was like books that made me freak out, but not books that gave me a solution.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. It is so hard to raise kids who know how to manage money. Bree, right now, my kids are all about earning money for presents. My daughter wants to get presents for all of her friends, and my son is doing a Secret Santa with his friends.
Oh, I hear you. And if you're looking to raise kids that are financially responsible, we have got a lifesaver recommendation for you that you need to check out. It is Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that gives kids and teens an easy and fun way to gain financial literacy, all while giving parents peace of mind.
You can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and even keep an eye on kids' spending with real-time notifications. Meanwhile, your kids can begin their journey towards financial autonomy by learning how to save, invest, and spend wisely.
So sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/NGM.
That's greenlight.com/NGM to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/NGM. We're hitting that time of year where my brain gets so overloaded in December that I look for anything to make life easier. And I have to say, Bree, that Green Chef is one of those services.
Yes, Green Chef is there to take away the dreaded, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? You can eat clean all holiday long with over 80 weekly meal options each week, featuring things like quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, or my personal favorite, the keto options.
And you don't have to lose track of healthy eating habits during the holidays because every Green Chef customer gets a free session with one of their registered dietitians who can walk you through how to make clean eating work for you, which is very cool.
And I have to say that I have been loving their recipes lately. They put things together I have never thought of. This week, we're trying the lemon basil caper pork with sauteed cauliflower, bell peppers, almonds, and feta cheese, my favorite. Their recipes make it so easy to support my wellness goals without skipping on flavor.
For Green Chef's best deal of the year, get $250 off with code NGM250 at greenchef.com/NGM250. That's greenchef.com/NGM250. And don't forget to use that code NGM250 to get $250 off.
Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well.
There are so many books out there that make you freak out. And there's nothing that really digs into first of all, like, why are we having this addiction to our screens? And second, it can't be that all devices are bad. As somebody I love tech. My dad was a computer science teacher. I love technology. I love what it's able to do. It can't all be bad. And nothing else is addressing it the way I think you did in How to Break Up with Your Phone.
Huh. Well, that's nice to hear. Yeah, I was trying to have like a non-judgmental approach both to ourselves and to I'm not anti-technology by any means. Like, we're doing this interview over technology. I'm very grateful that I can see you and hear you and we're doing this. But it's more, how does our use of technology align or not align with how we actually want to live our lives? And then how can we use technology in ways that support the ways we want to live and not get sucked into all the attention grabbing things on our phones and other screens that are, they're really engineered in very sophisticated ways to steal our attention from us. Like, how do we create those boundaries so we keep the good parts, but then minimize the bad parts?
Yeah, it is funny how these devices tend to manipulate our attention. And in the book, you mentioned all the things that they design into Instagram with the notification timing.
There is a lot of very sophisticated programming and engineering and psychological manipulation that goes into the most problematic apps. And my book, How to Break Up with Your Phone, came out in 2018. That was before TikTok. So Instagram is sophisticated, but TikTok is even crazier in terms of its ability to predict what you are going to want to see and suck you in.
Yeah.
That's by far the most effective and powerful algorithm of all of them. But I think it's important just for all of us to recognize that if you have trouble kind of setting limits for yourself on how much time you're spending on social media apps in particular, please don't blame yourself because these apps are being designed with some of the top minds in the world working on keeping your attention on those apps. So I think that we do need to actively work to create boundaries for ourselves. So it does require work on our parts, but it shouldn't come with self-judgment. There's no point in beating yourself up. Just know that you're against a formidable opponent.
Yeah. I just want to say, like, why do we keep doing that to ourselves as a society? We have all these great minds working on algorithms to keep your attention on an app. Why not, I don't know, solving some of the problems of the world? World hunger,
Makes money.
problem. I know, right? We have a little blue pill, but we still can't cure cancer.
I get frustrated I have type 1 diabetes. And so I've got this insulin pump, and it's more sophisticated than it was when I was diagnosed in 2001, but it's not smart. You know, it doesn't learn from my experiences. And I'm like, if my insulin pump had 1,000th of the power
that
of prediction
of
that TikTok has, it would actually make my life and the lives of the millions of people with type 1 diabetes better.
Yeah.
But that's not where the investment. Yes, we could go on about that. It's
I know.
incredibly...
Sorry. That's my little tidbit. I'm just like, oh.
It's funny though, because it's like you come, now I'm on a squirrel Brie. You come to think about it and you're like, well, why is that it's so controllable? So like with the social media apps and like with TikTok and with Instagram, you could really play with people's little dopamine spikes and you could get them like addicted to things. Whereas with insulin, it's not growing. I mean, it's horrible to say it this way. It's not a growing industry. It's not something that you can put little tweaks on and like
continue.
Get more
like once you solve it,
users.
You solve it.
Like
is that what you mean? Like once you solve it, you solve it and it's done.
Well, no, yeah.
You could make a lot of money. I'm just saying, anyone out there is listening, you could make a lot of money because there's so many people with diabetes and that number is growing. I mean, that's a whole separate conversation because it's so hard. Well, this is interesting though, right? It's so hard to get approval for a medical device because insulin can literally kill me if I take too much. Like I could kill myself right now, right? So you don't want to just mess around with an algorithm that's going to auto dose insulin.
True.
But I think it is interesting to think that we do have these algorithms and programs that are being created by companies where there are no checks on what they're doing. You know, the social media apps were able to be launched with absolutely no research into what this might be doing to our mental health or even to the development of adolescent brains. And that's something there's an increasing amount of attention being paid to right now. And I mean, I don't know how far you want to go down like the AI, the artificial intelligence path, but that is truly insane where we have artificial intelligence, these algorithms being developed and these products being launched where the creators themselves thinks there's a chance that they might literally wipe out humanity and there's no checks or balances. There's no kind of like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 in the way that there are with drug trials or even like device approvals that we have for technology, whether it's social media or these kind of brand new technologies like generative AI. So I think that's really interesting for us as a society to think about is why are there not safeguards in place to make sure this is not going to go off the rails?
Yeah. And I think they're kind of going to that way with the talk of actually banning TikTok in the US, like seeing the impact that the social media is having on people. And I mean, obviously that's an extreme example of how to conquer this issue. Some more study and research needs to go into it, but it is interesting how there's nothing regulating it yet. I think it's coming.
Hopefully.
I think it is too. And I do want to say, because I'm assuming you guys have a lot of parents listening to the show, that one thing I've been doing, so I have an 8-year-old daughter and I do not want her on social media. I think the evidence is becoming, well, first of all, intuitively, like, come on. Like if you're looking at idealized pictures of other people's bodies and lives for hours a day, do we really think that's not going to have some kind of effect on you? But now there's actually solid evidence coming together showing a causative effect. And one thing I am working on in my own daughter's school is to get parents together to say, you know what, when the time comes to get our kids phones, why don't we collectively agree to not go straight to smartphones, right? Like, why would we get our children devices that allow them access to everything on the internet, including all the pornography on the internet, all of the violent content on the internet, all the predators on the internet, everything on the internet, without any kind of guidance? Why don't we get our kids instead an alternative to a smartphone? Because there's actually a growing number of alternatives that are actually cheaper than, say, an iPhone that have more guardrails in place that allow you to essentially give your kid almost like a learner's permit for the internet and slowly help them get on board and maybe not let them have social media. Like technically the age of consent for those apps is already supposed to be 13. And there's believe it or not, a bipartisan movement in Congress now to try to get that age raised to 16. So I say that to say, I think that every parent I've talked to is terrified about getting their kid their first smartphone and allowing them to be on social media. And I think there's a real opportunity for parents to band together and to actually give our kids an alternative and have a more intentional approach, especially now that there is really solid evidence behind the harm that's being caused by some of these apps and platforms. So I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm feeling overwhelmed by that quest personally, but also really inspired by the positive response I've gotten from other parents. And it's something I hope to be working on creating more resources for. And there's also some great people working in this area, like Jonathan Haidt, this author who's coming out with a book next fall about kids and social media. And he's got an excellent Substack called After Babel. I recommend to anyone listening to this who's like concerned about social media and kids. He's really great about summarizing the evidence in a really digestible way.
I think the problem that many parents run into is because, at least I've seen this in my own kids' school, the kids come to school and every single one of their friends has a phone.
Exactly.
And when every single one of their friends has a phone and you're talking about social dynamics and friendships, if they don't have one, they can't participate in the group, which makes it really, really difficult for kids to be accepted by their peers. I love your idea about getting the parents on board with a set of guidelines so that kids don't have to run into that scenario where they're the only ones without it.
Exactly. It's the network effect, right? And Jonathan Haidt makes this point in his newsletter, but he says, if you were to decide, for example, to just stop eating sugar and everybody else kept eating sugar, it wouldn't really affect you. It doesn't really matter to you personally that everyone else still eats sugar, right? But if everybody else is on social media and then you're the one person who doesn't and they're doing all their socialization through social media, of course it's going to have an effect. And so that's why I'm really excited about the possibility of kind of helping people to intervene early, like for parents to say early on before there's saturation of smartphones to say, oh, wait a second, we all care about the same things. Like there are alternatives. We could actually do an experiment and see what happens if obviously kids are going to make mistakes and do dumb things in their communications and all that. But like if it's not so public, if the humiliation is not shared on Instagram, like I'm still kind of traumatized by middle school.
Same.
There was no pictures evidence.
No pictures. It's all living in my brain.
And it's still living there rent free.
Still
but I think like all of this has gotten 10 times worse since COVID. The pandemic happened. We all got sucked into our homes and then also got sucked into the social media in our phones because that was our connection. So the breakup, I know for me, and I don't know about for the two of you, like it's been a lot harder. I find myself doing so much more time on my phone than I did before the pandemic. And I feel guilty trying to break because I know I shouldn't be, but I'm having a very hard time breaking it.
My son is playing a game right now on his computer where he's a thief and the cops are after him. So I'm so excited about this new app, Give As We Grow, where instead of being the quote unquote bad guys, kids are practicing giving back.
That is so cool, Joanne. I really wish that there was something like this when my kids were younger that got them excited about giving back to others and helped them build a better understanding of what it really means to volunteer.
Give As We Grow is the first of its kind free educational mobile app for children ages 8 to 11 that teaches kids via fun, service-focused minigame quests to tap into their unique talents and interests to help others.
And did you know that studies show that there is a biological connection between generosity and happiness, and that volunteering improves people's physical and mental health? I mean, kids who volunteer typically do better in school and are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. And that is something that I think we all want for our kids.
Ready to spark a new movement in generosity? Find and download Give As We Grow for free in the App Store for Android and iOS. And for resources for the whole family, visit giveaswegrow.org.
Hey all, Bree here, and I wanted to share one of my favorite gifts to give during the holiday season, a Storyworth book. It is the most amazing gift ever. Storyworth is an online service that lets you create a special and unique gift of someone's story. I've given Storyworth books to both of my parents, and it has been their favorite gift, hands down. And did I mention it is so easy? Storyworth emailed my parents questions every week that I handpicked from their massive list of questions that they have. All my parents had to do was open their email and answer them. That easy. I asked my dad questions like, did you have any rules that you set for yourself as a parent, which you immediately broke? And he did. I even asked both of my parents, are you more like your mom or your dad? And they shared a lot of really amazing qualities that I didn't know about my grandparents at the time. Then at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles all of their answers, puts them into this gorgeous book that covers everything. My parents love showing us their books, and I personally love getting a chance to read them. With Storyworth, I am giving giving those I love a thoughtful and personal gift from the heart that preserves their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/NGM and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/NGM to save $10 on your first purchase.
Well, let's let go of the shoulds, because I think, first of all, totally natural. I mean, first of all, I would not have wanted to have gone through, especially the early phases of the pandemic, without the ability to connect with people, right? So I think it's more like, if you recognize you're reaching a point where the balance feels off and you just feel that something doesn't feel right inside about the way you're interacting with technology, or the amount of time you're spending on, people use the term mindlessly scrolling. Whenever I ask people, like, what are you trying to do? They're like, I want to spend less time mindlessly scrolling, right? So maybe come at that with more of an attitude of curiosity rather than self-judgment. It's like, okay, well, you're recognizing that this doesn't feel good and that you don't want to. It's not that you shouldn't, it's that you don't want to. I think that's a really important difference in phrasing, because then it's like, oh, okay, I've decided I don't want to do that. That's great. That's a wonderful starting point, because then you can actually be like, okay, what can I do? What do I want to do? And then you have kind of like a more positive path, and being a bit kinder to yourself, that like, you're probably going to get sucked into the scrolling because it's your habit. And also it's designed to make you want to keep scrolling on some very deep subconscious level. But now in your heart of hearts, you don't want to be doing it. So it's a lot easier to stop doing something that you recognize you actually don't like than it is to come at it from a place of self-restriction. It's the difference between going on a diet, right, where you're trying to restrict to say no to, I don't know, the stereotypical like chocolate cake, versus recognizing, when I eat a pint of ice cream in one sitting, I actually don't feel good. And so I don't want to do that. That's different. So I think we need to be kinder to ourselves, but do recognize, like, it's the pandemic kind of induced this sort of like binge, right, of screen time. And we're starting to feel the effects that it doesn't feel nourishing and we don't feel quite right. And rather than beat ourselves up over, honestly, what was a coping strategy for the past couple of years, let's take a deep breath and figure out what we want our path forward to be.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the noticing, like, you don't want this feeling. Going back to like it being a habit, it's so interesting how habitual just picking up your phone is. We're doing this digital detox right now in Balance. And the other day, our focus was on the mindfulness, like paying attention to where you're feeling it in your body, paying attention to those 3 W's that you have, like, especially when are you picking it up? And I was doing that the other day, and I noticed that every time I pull up to a stoplight, and like my kids aren't in the car, I only do this when my kids aren't in the car. Every time I pull up to a stoplight, I have this urge to pick up my phone and to check something.
Right.
And it's like, once I notice that I have that urge, I'm like, what is going on here? This is so bizarre.
You're not alone, though.
Yeah,
you know that.
Yeah.
When you said that, we're all like, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it also crazy that it's like, it's not when my kids are in the car, right? Because you wouldn't want to put them at risk by doing that. But when we're alone,
don't
in
want
the
to
car,
show
it's
them
like,
that.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, you don't want to show them that. Yeah, I think that's really, really an important point, is that this is so deep, our habits when it comes to picking up our phones. It's so deep, and it's because our biochemistry has been hacked, honestly. And just to go into a bit more detail about what's happening, people talk a lot about dopamine in a casual sense, but dopamine really is like a salience indicator. It's how our brain records things that are worth repeating. And so it's behind all of our habits, because if you do something and it triggers a release of dopamine, it's essentially your brain's way of saying, oh, right, I should do that again. Yeah. You can understand why that would be essential for the survival of our species, because dopamine is released if, say, you eat delicious food or, sex, like eating and reproduction, big dopamine triggers.
Yeah.
But dopamine does not care. It's like the honey badger. If anyone remembers, like, honey badger don't give
Yes.
like that kind of, right? Like, it does not care whether or not this habit
It's good or bad.
is good or bad.
Yeah.
And so you can easily create a product that will become habit forming, if not downright addictive, by just making sure that using your product triggers the release of dopamine. So when we look at our phones, there are dopamine triggers deliberately baked into every aspect of its design. And especially the most problematic apps are like little, essentially slot machines. Worth noting, slot machines are considered to be the most addictive machines ever to have been invented. In fact, the gambling disorder is like the first behavioral addiction recognized by the Psychiatric Association.
Really?
So Yes, and our phones are deliberately designed to mimic slot machines to the point that you can consider it to be a slot machine that you keep in your pocket. So if you think about like a slot machine, what do slot machines do? Well, they've got lots of bright colors because bright colors are dopamine triggers. Think about the Instagram logo, right? That is everything on the phone. Those colors are not random. It's not like, a raspberry is bright red and bright red is a dopamine trigger, but that's because of natural evolution. That's not the same for the Instagram logo. They focus tested that. They actually engineered those colors to appeal to you.
It used to be sepia, now that I think about it. And now it was like brown. And you're right. It turned into this bright thing that just sticks out on your phone.
Exactly. Yeah. Or you think about the big thing with the casino. Why do you go to the casino? Because you might win something. So the possibility of rewards. So obviously in a casino or slot machine, it's money you're after. But on your phone, it's like new information or it's some kind of social affirmation like a like or a comment, right? Or a follow. And then you think about what else is there in this casino. If you think about a slot machine, it would be very easy for you to just press the button just to say whether or not you won, because that's essentially what it's doing, right? But it spins and you wait. And the reason that's a feature is because that pause, the anticipation and the uncertainty are absolutely enormous dopamine triggers. And so if you think about what happens when you open your phone and you check, you don't know what's going to be there. But it's engineered also that there always will be some kind of reward, right? Like you don't have something in Instagram, so you go to your email or you go to TikTok or you go to whatever. There's always something. And the thing about dopamine is that every time you encounter that dopamine trigger and dopamine is released, it reinforces the idea that checking your phone was worth doing. And then if you think about the flip side, like what happens when you don't check your phone? Well, at this point, a lot of us experience anxiety in the form of FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, whether it's missing out like an actual experience that you see people posting pictures about, or just missing out on something important, like a call from your kid's school or your spouse or a work email, something like that. And the anxiety of like worrying that you're missing out on something, that feels uncomfortable, I think actually likely produces stress hormones to be produced in your body like cortisol. And that feels really bad. So what do you do to get rid of it? Well, you try to soothe your anxiety by checking your phone again. And then what happens when you check your phone? You encounter a dopamine trigger. And then what happens then? Well, you just reinforce the idea that checking your phone was worth doing again and again and again and again.
I feel like a hamster on a wheel listening to this.
Or like, no, like a rat. It's like a rat with a pellet.
There's no way out of this. All of us are. There's no way out of this.
Well, but thankfully there is. But I mean, that's why,
a way out of it.
That's when I say, like, don't blame yourself. That kind of, when you're talking about being at the stoplight and feeling this urge to check. Well, first of all, the fact that you notice the urge is a huge success. That means you're already on the path to a healthier relationship because you noticed it. The problem is that a lot of this is so subconscious, we don't notice it. And that's why you end up in the situation we all have been in, where you look down in your hands and you're like, I have been on my phone for 30 minutes, for 45 minutes. I don't even know how it got here. What happened to the past hour of my life? That is because of this biochemical hacking that is going on.
It's
Sorry,
so funny.
I just got me ranting. But
no. I love all of this. It's so funny because I'm working on a presentation right now. And yesterday, maybe like 5 minutes into looking at my phone, I'm like, what am I doing? And I like throw my phone across the room because it hacks your brain so quickly,
it does.
so easily. There are times when, like, I'm sure anyone can say this, they go on the computer to just check one thing.
Oh yeah.
I'll be like, I don't even know what I went on to check anymore. I don't even think I don't even think I got there. Something distracted me online.
Yeah, I mean, like I literally wrote the book, and it still happens to me. So just to give a sense of like, this is it's very powerful. So don't blame yourself. But my point being with you noticing it is that is the first step, because once you notice it, you can say, oh, wait a second. Like why? And I mean, maybe you guys have spoken about this on the podcast before, but I came up with this exercise called What For, Why Now, What Else? And the idea is to help people become more intentional about what they're doing on their phones. So I would suggest, first of all, if you haven't yet gotten into the habit of noticing when you pick up your phone, one easy way to make that easier is to just put like a rubber band or a hair tie around your phone for a couple days. The idea there is that when you reach for your phone on autopilot, and there's like a hair tie, like blocking the screen for a millisecond, your brain's gonna be like, why the heck is there a hair tie on my phone? Oh. And then you'd be like, oh, because that's the cue to pay attention. And then as soon as you do that, then you can go to this WWW exercise. And the first W is what for? Like, what for? Like, what did you pick up the phone to do? Did you have a practical purpose, like sending an email or making a phone call? Or was it like just kind of random? Ask yourself that question. Boredom.
procrastination.
Well, that's the
Really-
next one. It's like, why now, right? Like,
Why now?
Why now? So was it actually like a time sensitive reason? Like you had to buy your friend a birthday present? Or more likely, was there an emotional reason that you did it right now? And that's where it's like, I was bored. I was wanting a distraction. I was at the traffic light. I feel lonely and I wanted connection. So I check social media. That always makes you feel better. Or, anxiety, whatever it may be. Once you kind of identify what your brain is after, you can move on to the third step, which is what else? What else could you do in this moment? And that could be doing something different to achieve what your brain's after. Like if you're lonely, maybe you use the phone to call a friend instead of checking social media. Or maybe if you need a distraction, you get up from your desk and like take a walk around the block instead of doing what you're going to do on your phone. You might also decide you don't want to do anything, like say in the stoplight example, not just because it's safer, but also because it's nice to give your brain a chance to just relax. Our brains are so overloaded right now. Yeah. And then lastly, you might decide, I want to be on the phone right now, whether or not there was a practical purpose. You might actually want to be looking at social media in that moment because you just enjoy it for 2 or 3 minutes, right? The point isn't to arbitrarily restrict yourself from using technology. It's just to make sure that when you engage with your phone and these devices, it's the results of an intentional, conscious choice. Mm-hmm. So that's the ultimate goal. And, I've heard from people, there's some apps that can help you with this. I think it's actually wonderful to use apps that can help you, but there's one called OneSec that people seem to really like. And what it does literally is you try to open a pre-selected app, something you identify as something that's a problem for you that you want to change. And instead of opening it immediately, it pops up with a 1 second delay. And I personally haven't used it yet, but I think it probably says something like, are you sure you want to open this right now? And so many people have told me just the 1 second pause is enough for them to be like, you know what? I don't. So again, that speaks to how deep this is in our circuitry at this point that we're checking on autopilot. It does not take much to get this awareness. So I just want to give people like hope that cultivating this initial awareness is within your power. And just by listening to our conversation so far, even without trying, I guarantee you're going to notice some moment in the next couple of days when you're about to go into a phone spiral. And you should hold on to that as the beginning of a new relationship.
Yeah, I've noticed it just knowing the behind the scenes stuff of what they're doing for sure. And that OneSec app, I know that you mentioned in your book how like the Apple Store didn't allow those apps to be in the store at first. Like they were, they were banned.
I got that detail from my own book.
They were, no, you wrote it in 2017. Like I know how this goes. Yeah. Like you don't remember.
Right.
That's
it's
sneaky.
crazy. It's so
they didn't allow it, but they did. But at first it was a struggle to get that app in because it restricted people's use of the other apps in the store. Yeah, it's totally interesting. Well, with the stoplight thing, something that I've been doing that you mentioned in your book is that mindfulness is just paying attention to like where it is in my body and then like leaning into it. Because before I was trying to resist the urge so bad. I was like, no, I shouldn't do that. No, that's a bad idea. But actually like acknowledging it and leaning into it, the urge disappears. Maybe it takes like 10 to 15 seconds now, which is kind of a long time when you're just sitting there waiting for an urge to pass, but it's working.
But also amazing, it's a quarter or a fifth or a sixth of a minute, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I think what you're getting at is that, and I got this from Judson Brewer, who's a neuropsychiatrist, and he does lots of research with mindfulness. But the idea, he was using mindfulness as a way to help people quit smoking, is that all urges pass. No feeling is permanent. Everything passes, right? Nothing stays the same. So if you're able to kind of view your cravings with a little bit more impartiality, almost like you're watching waves crash on a beach, like eventually it's going to subside. So if you don't fight against it, but you also don't indulge it, and you just kind of, again, get curious about it and kind of like, I really feel the urge to check my phone right now. Where do I feel that in my body? Like, what does my brain feel like right now? Well, that's kind of interesting. And just kind of be with it. I think it's actually amazing to hear you say it only takes 10 to 15 seconds.
Feels like such a long time.
Joanne's always been a little bit ahead of the curve.
Yeah. Fast moving.
So what are you coming up? What's coming up for you that you're really excited about?
Well, so as you guys know, How to Break Up with Your Phone led me to write The Power of Fun, which is all about why fun is actually an essential part of our life, not frivolous at all. And that was because, once I started spending less time on my phone, I ended up, with more free time. There's actually more free time than we realize, guys, because we're spending an average of like 4 hours a day on our phones. Like before the pandemic, just the phone, not the laptop, not your TV. So I ended up, I don't know, actually having time to pursue hobbies, like learn how to play the guitar. And it led to this feeling of joy and effervescence that just, I was so curious about. So anyway, long story short, I ended up writing this book about that feeling, which I determined was fun. I can talk more about that if you want. But right now, so I think that fun is a combination of 3 states, which is playfulness, connection, and flow, which I'm happy to go into more. But right now, I'm really, really interested in going deeper into connection in particular and playfulness. Maybe it's all of them. Maybe I'm just kind of investigating each of those independently. But just, I think that, I just personally it's very isolating. The pandemic has been very, very isolating. And then personally, I'm a freelancer. I don't have a professional community. And I'm just very interested in trying to figure out ways that all of us can feel more connected to each other and to ourselves, like to our bodies, to our environments, to our neighborhoods, all sorts of connection.
We totally need the connection right now. And it has been so wonderful talking to you, Catherine. We could talk for hours. Like, and we might even have to have you, probably have to have you back to even talk about more about the fun and the connection and playfulness.
Yeah, I'm going to work on winning you.
Why don't we do we should do a funtervention month.
Yes!
I love that.
I would love that.
A funtervention. Oh my gosh.
Seriously, let's do it.
Yes, we have ideas.
All right, people, need to keep
Everybody
listening.
finish,
There's more episodes coming.
Keep listening.
Yeah. Well, it's been wonderful talking to you, and thank you so much.
Oh, it's been wonderful talking to you guys too. Thank you.
She was so awesome.
I know.
So awesome.
Catherine, like, okay, I know if we lived in the same time zone, we'd be hangout friends. She's pretty awesome.
I'm so glad because I loved her work so very much that like it would have been sad to me if she wasn't awesome. But she wasn't as amazing than expectations.
Yes.
She was more amazing than expectations. So, and there's so much more I think coming up with Catherine, like, and No Goat Mom. So
I know people didn't. We had she had a hard out, but man, we were cramming a lot in there. We have upcoming projects planned. I'm excited.
Upcoming projects. Yeah, but one of the things we were talking about is this, her other book, The Power of Fun. We were talking about, after we stopped recording, The Power of Fun and how we had our No Goat Mom VIP retreat this past weekend when we're recording, beginning of May, and how everybody like left with something fun they're going to do. I mean, one is pursuing Bollywood dance. Another's art history. Like she's taking an art history class at college, which she's always wanted to do. Another is pursuing like theater opportunities to see where she can maybe act or get on stage. And like all of these things that we thought we had to put on the back burner because we're too busy and have kids. Now, like these women are making it a priority. And their faces, they just left with so much energy. And that's what, to quote Catherine's book title, The Power of Fun. You have like all this joy that we're so missing.
Well, because
from our lives.
We're so used to doing everything for everyone, and we feel like that's our duty. And it is an important duty to take care of your family and to be a productive member of your family. But if you don't have those things that are interesting to you, then you're kind of like, I feel, at least for me, it felt like I was a shell. You've been through that reawakening for me where like, in my case, unfortunately, it had to be a divorce that brought it out for me. But now I have these passions that I get so excited about, and I actually feel them missing when I don't do them. I feel sad. I feel like there is something missing. And then when I get to go partake in it, literally, like I haven't been on the water very much last year, hardly at all. And we decided just on a whim to go out to the lake 2 weekends ago, and we're out there. And it was so much work to get out there, trying to schedule everything, get the passes to go to the lake, getting all the equipment together, food, water, But once we're out there, I'm like, this is that piece that has been missing that I couldn't put my finger on for like months. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way about races. I love a race, and I'm not fast. So it's not like I'm competitive at
You
these
don't have
races.
to be fantastic at it.
Being in the event and being around people and like running and eating after running. I swear that's what all runners think about. Food. When do I get to eat? That'd be great.
It's the same way after a day on the lake. I'm like, food and sleep. Sleep feels so much better after you've really exerted it.
Well, we highly recommend you go get both of Catherine's books, How to Break Up with Your Phone and The Power of Fun, and look for more with her and No Guilt Mom. And until next time, remember, the best mom is a happy mom. Take care of you, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by.
Are you looking for something to listen to with your whole family? Then check out 6 Minutes, produced and created by Gen Z Media. With over 200 twisty, cliffhanger-filled episodes, 6 Minutes tells the story of 11-year-old Holiday who is pulled from the icy waters with no memory of who she is or where she came from.
3 years ago, Brinley Pasternak helped the Anders family uncover the truth about Holiday's past. Now she'll need them to help her find the truth about hers. In 6 Minutes Out of Time, the long-awaited sequel, Cyrus Anders is found unconscious near the mysterious Elixir Academy in Florida, and Brinley learns the school may have a shocking connection to her missing mother.
Dive in now and get the most downloaded family audio adventure in history. Follow 6 Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free with the GZM family subscription.